Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen and welcome to SecondsOut ReFLEXions. This is where every Monday, 4:30pm, we look back on the action from the weekend just gone. And this week, we're going to start with Amir Khan's bold but ultimately fruitless attempt to unseat pound for pound contender, WBO welterweight champion, Terence Crawford out in New York City. Fight still being talked about now, kind of midday when I'm filming this Monday. Not for the reasons Khan would have intended though, unfortunately for him. He was largely dominated, it must be said. I think one judge gave Crawford every round. I think the other two found one round for Khan up till the end of the fifth. He was dropped in the first round as well, Khan, although recovered pretty well. But was just being outboxed and starting perhaps to get beaten up when early in the sixth round, he took a blow. No one's doubting it was low from Crawford, low shot. And apparently couldn't continue. He said later on that he was urinating blood, which, you know, if true, no one's going to castigate him too much for pulling out. But there was a bit of confusion about whether he understood the rules correctly, because he was allowed 5 minutes to recover from the low blow before it was declared under the rules of the sanctioning body governing the fight that he would lose by stoppage, rather than go to the scorecards or any other outcome or no contest perhaps. But he was informed, he said in a post-fight interview that the referee had come over and informed him that he had 5 minutes. But then when he was later asked, why didn't you take the full 5 minutes before making a decision? He said he didn't realise he had 5 minutes. So there's a bit of kind of cloudy mindset going on there, not really sure what was going on. He also said that Virgil Hunter, his trainer in the corner, made the final decision. And we know Hunter wasn't overly enamoured with his chances in the build-up. So maybe there is some logic to that. But on the flip side, Hunter said that Khan ultimately told him he didn't want to carry on or he couldn't carry on. So one way or the other, someone pulled Khan out, whether it was himself or his trainer. But it looked to only be going one way. Although Khan said he was upset afterwards, it ended just as it was getting interesting, respect to Crawford, etc., etc. Which is very good of him to say. And Crawford, I should say, reciprocated that respect after the fight. It seemed very much that it was only going in one direction. A lot of people now saying they've given up on Khan, especially those who bought the show on pay-per-view. If you bought it on pay-per-view over here, then more for you. You know, it never seemed like a good enough card to pay pay-per-view money for anyway, but I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. I've probably paid for a few pay-per-view shows that other people wouldn't have. It depends what fighters are on there, who you personally like. But it's hard to have sympathy. Khan's always been in exciting fights in the past. So many, too many to mention. He was unified champion down at super lightweight, Olympic silver medalist at 17. I don't think one night where some people are saying he quit, some are taking the other viewpoint, whether he did or not, I don't think it tarnishes an entire career that was filled with excitement and thrills and ups and downs, a lot of downs as well, which I think people have enjoyed the most, the knockouts and thrills and spills. So let's not be too harsh on him. Crawford, again, looked great, but he's going to look great against everyone not called Errol Spence at welterweight, I think, or at least a Keith Thurman or a Sean Porter. It's very hard for Crawford, as we've discussed before. He's in top rank. Most of his biggest rivals are with PBC. They can all fight each other, where Crawford's kind of left in the dark, scrabbling around for big name opponents like Khan. And it's hard, because we all want to see Crawford against one of the biggest names, specifically against Spence. But even this week, straight away following the Khan fight, doesn't look like that's going to happen. PBC rep was quoted as saying something like, "We've got enough champions or possible challengers for Spence on our side. Crawford doesn't need to come into the picture yet." When people in the positions of power are saying things like that, and even Bob Arum for all the posturing on the top rank side, he may not want to make it just yet, despite what they're saying. So I don't expect it to happen this year, which is a real shame. Another guy to come back into welterweight contention, at least over the weekend, was Danny Garcia, who looked fabulous in finally getting rid of Adrian Granados, who was too brave for his own good, in the 7th round after knocking him down 3 times. Granados has looked really good at a certain level, actually. Even against someone like Adrian Broner, he looks like right in the fight until the end. So it's hard to see him kind of completely taken apart. But Garcia reminded people of his class, I think. He'll now be looking for probably rematches against the likes of Porter and Thurman, if not a fight with Crawford or Spence. So he's back in the mix now, which makes it a bit more exciting. I should say as well, on the Khan show, Teofimo Lopez once again underlined his great potential on the undercard, knocking out a really solid European champion in Edis Tatley on the undercard. I think he knocked him out in the 5th, but just looked fabulous doing so, and was by far the highlight of what was a bit of a drab undercard, to be fair. Meanwhile, back here in London, we got to see Dave Allen top of bill at the O2, which was a dream of his, and he delivered in style. Didn't seem like it for the first 2 rounds against Australia's former WBA regular champion Lucas Browne. Allen was getting hit too much. Arguably Browne won the first 2 rounds. But then just as it seemed like he might be letting the play slip away, less than a minute into the third, he slipped a big right hand from Browne, dipped to his left, unleashed a great left hook to the liver, got him out of there. Rare one-punch body shot knockout in heavyweight boxing. We don't see him very often, but you should watch it if it's available on YouTube or wherever. I don't want to break any copyrights, but great shot it was. We know Allen's a decent body puncher anyway, but it's very similar to his previous best victory against Nick Webb. He seemed to lose at least 2 of the 3 rounds leading up to his 4th round win against Webb. But then he just kept pressuring forward, making Webb work, not taking too many shots, enough to make Webb commit, but not enough to put him in serious danger. And then when Webb committed one too much, Allen came over a big right hand over the top that time to the head and got him out of there. So he's becoming a bit of a pattern. It's not a strategy I'd recommend in every fight. I don't want to see him soaking up shots. Say he fights David Price, as has been rumoured in July. I don't want to see him soaking up big right hands from David Price round after round until eventually he lands a haymaker. But it certainly worked against Lucas Browne. Can't help but be happy for Dave Allen, Bit of a cult hero. I see on Twitter the backlash, predictable backlash has already started. Not from me, not from SecondsOut. I mean, he's a great guy. He's always been generous with his time. Really humble guy, relatable. Wish him the very best. But we also really like David Price, so let's wait and see what happens in July. Elsewhere on that show, Josh Kelly looked pretty good against Krzysztof Ranowski. Took his unbeaten record, but it went the distance. Wasn't the most exciting fight we've ever seen. Conor Benn probably looked the best he's ever looked as a pro. Star of the night, though, was arguably Joe Cordina, who decimated Andy Townend at lightweight to take the vacant British title. Just the next step on the way for Cordina. Kind of reminds me of an orthodox version of Luke Campbell. Bit of interesting to know what you think of Cordina and how far he can go. Derek Chisora was also on there. Faced with a very negative opponent, Sener Gashi. Had to go the distance to win, but won every round. Bit disappointing, I'm sure, for Chisora and for his new trainer, Dave Coldwell, that he didn't have an opponent who wanted to engage more. But the most important thing is that he got the job done. He'll probably want to go on to replace Jarrell Miller against AJ in New York, but I think that might be a bit too soon for him. I think it'll be someone else. But it should be another big fight for Chisora, which is, I guess, what they're looking for and what his manager David Hay wants. So it was a really, really packed weekend of action, and it'd be really great to hear what you guys think. What was the standout fight? What was the standout performance, and why? Let us know in the comments below. We'll respond to the best ones and like the even better ones, or maybe both. And I'll be back next week, 4:30 PM Monday for ReFLEXions, or 4:30 PM on Thursday for FLEXpectations, where we preview the weekend's action. Thanks very much for your time. Always a pleasure. Cheers.